All right. Appreciate everybody being here. Run through our normal run of show. We got a few different things to get through today. First, I wanted to give you an update on the Baptist Hospital bid. Obviously, we appreciate both the council's support of the donation agreement, and we were notified by Baptist that their board has unanimously approved the donation agreement. So I expect we'll be having a signed copy from Baptist, if we don't already, in the immediate future. So positive step on that. Also, you guys will be given, or have been given by Jason, a letter from our city attorney, Adam Cobb, as a result of the bid protest from North Star Contracting Group, and that his opinion is that that protest will be upheld. So purchasing procurement staff, they'll issue a revised notice of intent to award the bid to North Star. And as you guys know, regardless of that result, the next step is entering to contract negotiations. So we will now enter into contract negotiations with North Star Contracting Group. In terms of the merits, I'll let the letter speak for those, just because I don't want to pretend to be a lawyer. I'll let you guys share that letter, and that I believe excuse me, I believe the city attorney's letter spells out pretty clearly the result of that bid protest. And I think it's a good reminder for us of why we have this process to begin with, is that and when we're asked for the numbers by everybody, it's that this is why you allow this process to play out, is that we want to make sure that we have the best result. The two things I can share with you proactively: number one, there is no consequential financial impact to this change, and there's at this point, no substantive timeline impact to this change. Obviously, a negotiation is a fluid amount of time. We got to see, but that would have been the same case regardless of the result of this protest. So this change, the upheld protest, has zero operational impact or financial impact at this juncture. And all it means now is that we'll start the negotiation with a different vendor and go from there. But again, happy to take any questions you have on it. I just might be, if it comes down to merits and things like that, I just want to make sure that we're not giving off any perception that conflicts with what our legal opinion is. So you guys, again, you either already have that or should have that in front of you. A couple other things, the plans on Cobb Center, just to give you an update. The plans to repair the structure, the roof, you guys remember we had priced that at about $1.7 million, with our goal being that we be more responsible than we were with Malcolm Young, and that when we have a building that has value to our community, that we do something to save it before it gets too far. The plans were delivered yesterday from Geosyntec, and on May 5th we'll have a meeting with Facilities, Parks and Rec, and Geosyntec to review those plans. And we anticipate a final submittal of those plans at the end of the month with an invitation to bid after that. Again, it's about a $1.7 million cost estimate, and that is to replace the exterior top priority things. That's the glulam arches, the roof of the community center, all of that. So we hadn't talked about it in a while. I just wanted to give you, so nothing substantively changing with what we've said, but we are starting to see some progress there and getting that moved forward. Along the same line, the Veterans Memorial Park update. We're getting closer to adding those permanent restroom facilities at VMP. We're going to put about a 1,750 square foot facility at the location, actually now closer to where the former restroom trailer was, right there by the parking lot on the north side. We'd had some design delays thanks to some soil sampling, which has also increased cost due to the need for a more robust foundation. That's some soft dirt and soil under there. So we've been kind of hacking our way through that, and we expect to have updated renderings submitted to the city this week. And also, if you recall, we received the $750,000 grant from the state. That grant has been extended to June 2026, and we have that agreement in hand. So we obviously shared with them some of the delays that were out of our control, but that project continues to move forward, and now we have an extended year to be able to get this done. It will be more of an outdoor than what some of the previous iterations we talked about, obviously because of costs, but the primary function that was asked for way back when, which was to have restrooms available and have some type of area for a learning or a gathering place, even if it's open air, but undercover. So we'll be able to accomplish all those things still. So looking forward to getting that done. You guys, I know some of you have reported already, but great news that Breeze Airways expands service. This is a perfect example of, it's nice when we start with service and sometimes someone will see one route and say, well, why are we only flying there? Well, sometimes you got to get your foot in the door and show that that our airport and our community can support that flight, and then good things happen. And so, and very quickly in the case of Breeze Airways, we started with jet service to Tampa. And that's gone very well. It went from 2 days a week, I believe, to 4 days a week almost immediately. And that starts in June, I believe, for the 4 days. And now we're picking up service direct to Raleigh, North Carolina, which will then bump on to Providence, Rhode Island. And that begins this Wednesday. And they will be doing that service both on, I believe it's Wednesdays and Saturdays. It's 2 days a week. So we're excited that this is our relationship with Breeze has started and grown very, very quickly. And I think that's a testament to our airport operations and to our community that continues to break records with travel at the airport. Just a quick update on the Bay Center. We've been working through trying to get a joint meeting scheduled with the county. We've offered May 14th. They are mulling that over. Obviously, that's something that we want to work with them on. We all have the same goal. We want to have clarity, and the goal of that meeting would be to have a potential vendor there where we can vet, ask concerns, questions, priorities, that when we go to do the study that I discussed with the BOCC, that we're kind of all in lockstep about what our expectations are and what we want. And we want to do that publicly, not only for the city council, the mayor, the county commission, but also for all of the other parties that are involved in this, that have some direct or indirect stake, that they have an opportunity to hear what the study is going to be and to offer feedback and make it the best and most impactful thing we can. So that's our one agenda item, I believe, at the city, is to just at least have that conversation so we can get that vision study moving forward. And so talked with county staff yesterday. And hopefully we're going to hear back from them if there's a date that works for them, or if for some reason it's something that they can't do. I would imagine that we'll just continue on and at least have the workshop at the city and invite the county and everybody else if we can't logistically make it happen. But we're certainly more than willing. I know I can't speak for council or council staff, but from the mayor's office, we're certainly more than willing to move that date around to make it work. And so we you know how these things go with lots of people and lots of schedules. We kind of fire off the first date and see if it works, and hopefully they'll come back with something. I know that they'd had some issues with those, but they're going to hopefully come back with something that works for everybody, and we'll do what we can to make it happen. But there is a little bit of progress there. I've mentioned before whether I've come back from a meeting at U.S. Conference of Mayors or some grant. I'll talk about actually another grant that we received because of some of the relationships we've built outside the building. But tomorrow, the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the Association for the Improvement of American Infrastructure, along with myself, will be hosting a P3 Education Institute workshop. So public-private partnerships. This is something that they do. It's chaired by the mayor of Atlanta. But it's something that they do all over, that they go into different cities and they meet with city officials, county officials about what right looks like when it comes to public-private partnerships. And some cities do it really well and have done it for a long time. Some cities and counties don't really have a lot of experience doing it. And so I'm looking forward to learning and seeing I know all of our staff will be there. I know county staff's been invited. Erica could give you the entire list. But I'm very appreciative that this wouldn't be something, we're going to be a smarter city and a smarter city staff after this meeting happens, and that wouldn't have happened without this relationship. So I appreciate the U.S. Conference of Mayors for investing in us, in our community, and I know mayors from 50 miles or so and staff have been invited. So that event will take place, I think it's all day, at the Sanger Theater. And then I'm having a meeting with them. I'll have a chance to meet and greet with some of those industry experts tonight, and then that meeting will take place tomorrow. So I think that's good for our community, good for our staff, and the more knowledgeable and educated we are on making public-private partnerships happen, the better. And when we talk about these issues like housing, if we wait on the government to 100% solely solve the housing crisis, we're going to be waiting a long time. We've got to have private partners that help us invest in our communities and get investment dollars here. So looking forward to that. The graduation season is here. If you've driven downtown, you know that already. Let's see, we got University of West Florida this Saturday at the Bay Center. Pensacola State is on May 9th, and of course all the various high schools are at the end of the month. So this is our friendly reminder to just park where you're supposed to be parking, not like in the middle of the roads or anything like that. If you're blocking a driveway, parking in medians, all that stuff, we're trying to give fair warning. Just make sure that you're parked in an actual parking space or a legal street, because I know it gets kind of crazy down there. Stormwater swales are not parking spaces, for example. We see that every so often. So just a reminder just for everybody around there to be smart about where you're parking your car. And then lastly, a couple of good news items. We've been notified that the City of Pensacola is one of 20 southeastern U.S. cities accepted into the planning cohort for the Southern Cities Economic Inclusion Grant through the League of Cities. And so this grant will help us develop a program to support small businesses and entrepreneurship efforts. It should dovetail nicely with the PACE Cervantes CDBG grant. And this was also an opportunity that came up during my work with leadership and during this cohort with Leadership Florida. We went to the Federal Reserve office in Jacksonville and met with some leadership there that actually leads this program and coordinates. Didn't know anything about it until actually I went to that meeting, and then so I believe they grant about $20,000 for the planning aspect of this, but more importantly, we're now included in this group that has the potential to have more funding. So we're excited for that. Also, for the past 11 years, SafeWise.com has published an annual survey of the safest cities in each state using the FBI crime data involving violent and property crime rates, and we were ranked the fifth safest city in Florida on that list, and we were the largest city, and it's Marco Island 1, Safety Harbor, Wildwood, and Dunedin, then Pensacola. So anytime that, public safety is always everybody's number one, whether we're the fourth safest in the country or fifth safest in the Florida, I like our name on those lists. So regardless of who's publishing it, we're using FBI crime data. It's as reliable sources you can get, and certainly we're very, very proud of that and thankful for our law enforcement officials that we can brag about things like that we're on that list. So that is everything I have, and I'm ready for your questions.
Mayor, on this Baptist bid protest, I guess one of the issues during it was the concrete crushing on site. I don't know how much you can elaborate on that, but will North Star, that was one of the issues that came up during the meeting, was North Star was going to concrete crush on site. What can you say? Yeah,
so that is what was proposed, but my understanding is, number one, it's important to me that we don't do that. And as we have conversations with the Baptist, the $2 million pledge from the county, as we have that discussion with them, I think that's probably an important discussion for them as well, the impact of crushing on-site versus off-site. That is what was proposed within their bid. That it was not a requirement to do that or to not do that, but obviously when you enter a negotiation with any firm, that's when you can have conversations about what that impact would be. And I expect, regardless of the outcome of a bid protest, whoever is the first one to negotiate with the administration, our conversation is going to be focused and prioritized around the possibility and idea of being able to crush off-site. So I can't speak to what that looks like or what North Star will or won't do. I've had zero conversation with them, but I can tell you that our focus will be to be able to crush off-site if that's at all possible, and I would expect that it will be.
And while we're talking about Baptist, and I know we talk about this a lot, how soon and how important is it at this point in maintaining the $7 million from the state to get whatever commitment the county is going to be to have that knowledge?
Yeah. So first of all, I think goal number one was the donation agreement means that that we're committed and Baptist is committed. So I think from a state standpoint, I'm not going to speak for the state, and certainly I wouldn't have predicted conversations from the state throughout this process for or against. It's been a hard thing to navigate, but what I'll say is the city's committed and Baptist is committed at this point, and that's in writing and approved by council and approved by, and I look at that commitment from a state perspective. The following through on the county's pledge for $2 million is obviously it's not going to happen this week, nor should it with the bid protests and all of that. I think it's better that we come to that meeting with as much clarity as possible. I certainly, if I were county commissioner, I would want as much clarity as possible. I don't want to be talking about what ifs and if the protest is or isn't. Let's talk about exactly what we have in front of us. So I think that's important for all of us, and to be able to answer whatever questions that they have. We expect again no financial consequence, but we also expect that with either scenario we are going to need the full set of funding. For example, there in any project there's apples and oranges to prices. For example, so you might look on paper and see that one bid's higher than another bid. But when you look closer and say, well, you're going to crush on-site versus off-site, or whatever scenario it might be, we feel that there's almost zero financial consequence, regardless of how this protest went. But in either case, we're going to need the full set of funding. I don't know how much time we're going to spend on that. Certainly, we're in communication with the county and county staff. They're aware of, obviously, we let them know about this change. And we'll see how it goes. But, I feel good. I feel confident. In 2024, it was voted 3-0 to approve the idea of this. And if I'm a county commissioner, I want to understand exactly what we're signing up for. And so I've got certainly no problem with that. I would imagine if I was on county commission, I'd expect the same thing. But I also know that this is great for the community and great for the region, and that we will be more than equipped with every question answered and data point that they're going to want to see as it pertains to how all of this shakes out, and that we are not just coming to flippantly ask for money for the sake of doing it. This is about a transformational change. And it's about honoring our commitment to the state when they brought us $7 million of what we said we were going to do. So anyway, I'm looking forward to having that conversation, and tons of conversation is happening amongst staff before May 15th. It's not as if we're not, that we're going to walk in. I would certainly hope the county commission won't, nor our staff will walk in the dark, and not really understand all the facts ahead of May 15th. So. But that's what we're shooting for right now, is that we would have that be on the May 15th agenda, hopefully, if the chair allows that.
What's the dollar amount that you're talking about?
Truly, on the upheld, I don't know the dollar amount, other than I know it's in the same ballpark as the old one.
What's the ballpark?
Well, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say. Am I allowed to say? Is it public? If it is, we'll provide the number. I just don't.
So how did Sessler get picked if we don't have numbers?
No, I'm not saying we don't have numbers. It's about.
Don't want to give us the numbers.
Yeah. Well, there's no reason for us not to. It's all public. It's all eventually public record. But in the middle, I'm a little gun shy to start throwing numbers around in the middle of a bid protest right now without making sure what is or isn't public. So. There'd be no reason for us to be gun shy about giving them all together, because it's all going to be public record. I mean,
right.
How are we going to avoid not sharing what the number is? Obviously, we will. I just want to respect the process. But what I'll tell you is we'll check on it, and there's lots of procurement triggers of when something is or isn't public, and that I don't claim to understand all of. So let us find out. Yeah. What's that?
My request is.
Okay, perfect. We'll.
Mayor, I just want to follow up on that, because the county has the numbers, from what I understand, through public records requests. And Commissioner Kohler told the News Journal that he understands that the bids came in under $15 million, and he said, quote, "It just seems like the city was trying to get more than what would have been in the best interest for Baptist or the county if he doesn't feel that he's going to support the $2 million.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get your response to that.
Well, that's why you don't comment with half the information. So, if you with full information and understanding, there's thousands and thousands of pages that go into a bid. It's relatively short. I'm just going to speak to any bid, not this one in particular. It's short-sighted, as I mentioned already, to look at a number and say this one's $100 and this one's $95. So why don't you take the cheapest? And oftentimes with governments, that's the mentality that gets you in trouble, because that means things haven't been dotted and crossed. So when you look at it as just a number, I certainly hope our staff isn't doing that. I hope our staff is making sure that the community in the surrounding area is respected with what's being. It is not simply always about cost. And if you want the lowest quality or something unreliable or something, then just look at cost. If you want to make sure that everything is done the right way, then you have to look at things outside of cost. So that's why my advice would be to not necessarily react to what the numbers are or aren't and actually read it. That would be my recommendation to him.
And just so, I'm sorry, is the bid protest resolved or not?
It is in our eyes. So the letter you have is that it's upheld. So our position is we're moving forward with North Star to negotiate, and that will, we start just as if, so we're off and going. What happens from here, some things we control, some we don't, but my expectation is we'll start negotiations with North Star and off we go.
And just to follow up on that, his point was, I guess he was focused on the county not picking the lowest bid and wanted an explanation of why that decision was.
Well, and he'll have one. They didn't put it on the agenda for the 3rd. When he's ready, I'm happy to have the conversation with him when he puts it on the agenda. So, we expect to have those questions, and we also already have those questions answered. So that's the good news. But my position on that would be, before you talk to the newspaper, have all of your facts, and so that would be my position on that. So that if he can call me anytime, he can call our staff anytime, but why would it behoove us to flippantly pay more? That would be an interesting logic to understand. Why would we select something that was more expensive just for the sake of doing it? And really, with the protest, it may be a moot point anyway. But that's when you don't have all the information and you haven't heard, an explanation of how things go, and then you talk publicly about it. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. So we're happy to have that conversation anytime before or during May 15th to explain our position that at this point may be moot anyway. Yeah.
Mayor, how far along are you on the FY26 budget process?
Yeah, okay.
What is the guidance, the initial guidance in terms of expectations on top line?
Yeah.
Going into the staff working this?
So we're kind of through the kind of those first round of meetings. I have not been in those. Tim and the administrators have been in those, and so what I'd say our overall guidance is we've got to make sure that we tighten up everything. From a sales tax standpoint, you're seeing things plateau, and that's the ebbs and flows of government and government operations, right? Is that we need to adapt to, and we want to make sure that we're honoring the taxpayer dollar and making sure it goes as far as possible. So, I think we've given the early indication that of those facts to our departments, and we've had conversations about even kind of the structure of how the budget process works here in terms of instead of saying here's what our current budget is and here's our wish list, it might be more pragmatic to be starting on here's a balanced budget and here's a couple other items that if we found funding we could do. So we've asked them to tighten their belts up the same way we're going to have to, including in the mayor's office, and so we'll see how that goes.
Well, this whole issue of revenue expectations and going into 26 is one of the things that's hanging up the state senate right now. Mm-hmm. And they're talking numbers. Did you provide a top line number, a scenario of a range of this percentage down to this percentage up?
Not necessarily. You know, what the normal process is, and has been for years, has been, you know, we go to the departments, they propose a budget, and then we start at, you know, some wildly number higher than what we have. That's where it normally begins, and then it becomes kind of the administration and the departments, you know, process to whittle that down to get us into a balanced budget. So that's normally how it goes. So our advice to our departments actually yesterday was, you know, we're going to have to buckle up a little bit, and so, you know, as you're writing this and as you're revising it, understand, you know, the big long wish list may not be fulfilled, and rarely is the entire thing fulfilled, if ever. But you know, to really clamp down, or for example, if there's an initiative or a project that you want to start, is there something that we don't need to be doing anymore? You know, I mean, can there be some cost neutral changes that we still are nimble and we still are agile and we're moving the government in the right direction, but we're not just adding things on and adding things on, that we come up with some solutions to make those modifications and modernizations cost neutral, for example.
Mayor, follow up on the Bay Center.
Yeah.
So, is the city, I guess, are you concerned getting a vendor, have y'all committed to getting a vendor to do the vision plan, and is the city going to take on that cost on its own?
Yeah, so first, answer the second part, yes, we will take the cost on its own, on our own. We've had discussions with a vendor. We have not signed anything with them, and we won't until we've had this conversation. So if the result of the meeting is we don't think that they're fit to do the job or whatever, then we'll go find something else. I've pledged that to the commission and to the council, because if we did, then it's kind of a half-hearted meeting if we've already signed them anyway. So our goal is allow everybody to vet that, and if they have any concerns, I've got no problem going to the next person, because even if we did that, we would at least have all that information from the meeting of what people are expecting. But we got to start somewhere. You know, we got to bring somebody forward that we know and we feel can do a pretty good job. But no, we have no contract with them. We have not negotiated anything with them. Obviously, we've gotten an idea of a scope and price. We know that. But my goal is to allow this process to play through, and that we want county commission feedback and city council feedback on what they expect to see.
And the county's considering $25 million from you know, what would be the bonds that would also go to any updates to the Bay Center for the Jones Park on 9 Mile Road. I guess, is there any concern that the county might be moving ahead before the vision study is, until the community's on the same page about what it wants to see at the Bay Center and what the cost would be if you're taking $25 million out of a potential pool of money? Is that concerning at all?
Well, you know, I don't have all the information, so I'm not going to comment on whether that pencils or not. I mean, that would be my first question, I guess. Philosophically, does it pencil? You know, if is the net increase by going to turf fields at John R. Jones, you know, how quick do we get the $25 million back? Because those are the same conversations we're going to have about the Bay Center, about a potential conference center, ice rink, sports facility, all of those things. That's what this study, I think, is going to do. Is going to say, you know, here's A and B and C and D. Here's the cost. Here's the financial impact. So I don't claim to know what the data they're going off of whether that pencils or doesn't pencil. But that would be, I guess, my first question. And yeah, I mean, it's a $100 million discussion, and if turf fields at John R. Jones pencils better than something else, then let's go that direction. Or if it doesn't, maybe we hold off and see what happens. But as it pertains to what I'm doing every day, we're full steam ahead trying to do what we said we were going to do, and obviously that's not something I control. If the county commission votes for it and that's what they want to do, then that's doesn't really matter what I think. I think we'd just move forward with the process already. It just would be with a lesser possible funding for whatever would happen there.
Mayor, on the Bay Center, at the last commissioners meeting, there was some debate about the makeup of this group.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Schaefer even showed up and
Yeah.
said, well, I should be on this group.
Right.
And they all go, yay, verily.
Yeah.
Have you been asked about the makeup of the group? Are you just an invitee, or are you a partner in this group? You've already bought a ticket, a substantial ticket.
Yeah. So I gave some ideas. The first conversation was, does this need to be county-led or city-led? And I deferred, of course, to the county and said, if this is something that you want to put together, we certainly don't want to jump in front of you on that. And they gave that a run. And I had sent the county staff some suggestion, not a final list. I just said, here in my head, a city council member, Florida West, just a general list of folks. So you'd have to ask them about the process and paring it down. I do sympathize with the idea that anytime you put one of these boards together, there's never been one put together in the history of me in this job that there wasn't some people that would say, well, let's have more seats and let's have less. I think the problem we're going to run into if we say, well, every single organization that touches tourism ever is going to be on this board, and I'm not speaking specifically to Darren or your example, I mean in general, is the whole idea of putting the subcommittee together was for the wheels of government to move faster. If we put 15 people from 15 different organizations or 10 different organizations on a board, is that going to help us move faster than just having joint meetings? That was the whole idea. So I certainly sympathize with county staff because I've been there before, and that you're trying to find this right mix of having a subcommittee that makes the governments more nimble. But if we end up with 20 people or 15 people on a committee, will that make government more nimble or will that not? And so I would support whether if they can find the right mix that makes sense for them, I'm okay with that. And I think it's very real to say, well, then should we go back to, can we just all clear our schedules 3 days in the next 6 months between city council members, county commission, and the mayor's office, and let's just have joint meetings and everybody's available in public to come to those and voice their concerns and all of that. Should we just revert back to that and say, let's all buckle up and work on our schedule? So I'm open to either one of those scenarios. The subcommittee was just a suggestion to move faster, yet the irony is it's not making us move any faster. We're now talking about, we're going to spend 3 months debating who should or shouldn't be on it. That doesn't really mean fast government. That means, we're getting locked down in red tape. So I support the county, whichever direction they want to go. If they called me today and said, Mayor, will you take on doing the committee? I'd do it. If they said, let's just forget this idea and let's do joint, I'd do that. And if they solve the rigmarole of who should or shouldn't be on the county and they tell us how many seats we got, we'll do that. So I'm good with any of those three options, and I'm happy to support the county with any of
Do you
those.
think there's any fear among the commissioners and the community at large that your master district planner would maybe blow up some preconceived ideas, bring in some outside thinking that would upset some apple carts? I don't want to mention any organizations, but is there some risk in that? Is that what's happening?
Well, I'll speak for me in that I would expect that the study will be done and I'm going to be surprised by something, but isn't that, as leaders of the community, isn't that how we should all be approaching this? Not, well, this is the idea I had 10 years ago or 20 years ago. What is the best idea for the city today? And so I'm not asking anybody else or any other organization to take a temperament or an attitude about the study that I don't take, which is I come in with nope. If they say it's ice rink or conference center or John R. Jones or whatever, but let's actually have data that suggests what is the best decision for this huge investment by our taxpayers. That's so I'm not speaking to a specific organization or a specific idea, but I would certainly hope that we can all enter into this and saying what's best for the community, and if it's what we thought the whole time, great, and if it wasn't what we thought the whole time, then I think part of leadership is being able to adapt and be nimble as it pertains to myth busting or taking old ideas and turning them into new ones that are net positive. So we'll see what happens, and that's the way I feel about we should all be entering this with an open mind, even if it ends up that we got the prediction right. We should still all enter this with an open mind about what's best.
Mayor, you mentioned the restrooms at Veterans Park. What's the status of North Palafox Street?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. We are moving aggressively on those two. I don't have an update since the last time, other than I know it's with our facilities people right now, and we're working with ECUA to get out there. So that agreement with ECUA, all that. So the skate park and MLK are moving as fast as possible, and actually are jumping other priorities to get done as quick as we can. So.
Also, the Children's Trust is proposing a memorandum of understanding on with the county taking their CRA monies and putting it towards summer youth employment program.
Mm-hmm.
Where is your memo?
Yeah, so we are. I believe we have I don't want to say the exact date yet because I'll get it wrong. But at the end of May, I think we're having a community conversation around childcare and childcare access in the city. That includes the Children's Trust. That includes leaders in this space throughout the state of Florida, and what we believe to be the largest contingent of group from our ELC to current daycare providers, that we're going to have a robust group. And that was one of the Teresa that's with us now, one of the positions we created, which is education and childcare, to work on internships, childcare access. I'm really passionate about this because of really two things. Number one, I have not met anybody in the city yet that tells me that we've solved the childcare crisis, kind of like the same way that we've solved the housing crisis. And so I think we have general consensus that at every income level, whether you're paying $1,000 a month for a kid at a church or you're subsidized, that we don't have enough seats for our kids. And so number one, we have consensus. And number two is there are very few topics in this world that you can notch off really three things. Number one, the workforce aspect of this. How many architects, engineers, construction workers do we have at home right now because they can't get somebody, because they can't get childcare? So we talk about wanting to build our workforce, and a lot of our workforce is sitting at home, and we're seeing very discouraging trends across the state of Florida where we're seeing more and more people staying home. I believe that stat from the Florida Chamber was that 15% of parents, one parent in the household of a young child in the state of Florida, 15% in the last 6 months have left their job and gone back home. It's a pretty alarming number. So from a workforce standpoint, and then Rick, all the things we already know, which is education and quality of life. So to be able to really take one action with funding, trust funding, and city assets, for us to be able to say we can attack education, quality of life for our children and our adults, and a workforce issue that we all agree on is an issue I'm excited about. So we're going in that direction. We continue to be in communication with the trust, but we're going to have a big push towards trying to make Pensacola, Florida, a place that's a benchmark in the state of Florida about having access to childcare and quality childcare.
So you think that will probably be the theme of the memo?
Yes,
Right.
it will be. So similar to the idea of moving it to the county. Summer employment, correct, which I think is a great idea, but kind of saying, hey, yes, these are city dollars, but let's just redirect them in a harmonious way that solves everybody's issue, that these are the dollars that our taxpayers voted on to help with services, but we're doing it in a hyper-focused way. And I honestly think whether it's the county's idea, the city's idea, that's a win all around. I mean, we're saying we've got a lot of boots on the ground around here to know what is needed. So does the trust, and so do our providers. So that's the direction we continue to go. So more to come, but it'll be. I expect that we'll have something, and I would imagine the media will be invited to that. We're looking at the end of May to have that big community conversation about childcare.
Mayor, this is you said this ELC meeting. That's Early Learning Coalition.
Yes, not an ELC meeting. I'm saying they would be involved in this summit that I'm hosting on childcare access.
They had a proposal in front of the trust 18 months ago that moves in this direction, and it had no traction. Part of the reason it seemed the debate was going was that the big chunk of the funding that they had asked or recommended was to go to Ed Meadows College over here, Pensacola State College, to educate daycare providers.
Yeah.
And the conclusion, one of the reasons it got tabled was they thought that funding mix was out of balance, that they wanted something like right away instead of a 2-year program to educate daycare providers. So you think this is coming back again?
Yeah, I don't know enough about that specifically, but I feel like, especially 2.5 now years into this job, half of our job isn't that whether this administration comes up with an idea, sees it through and executes it. The other half of this job is to build a coalition and to be able to use the pulpit, so to speak, to be able to put people in the same room that have positive impacts. So that's my focus. We got a lot of smart people doing a lot of great things for children in this community. I don't have all the answers of the right thing to do, but that's why we're bringing people in. We're going to have folks from other trusts around the state. We're going to have folks that are experts in this field from a data standpoint, and not for just them to prescribe what we do, but we should be having a conversation as a community about those things. How can we help at every level? I guarantee you a daycare provider is going to come in and tell us something we don't know, right? Because they're in there every single day. So that's why we're doing this. And so I feel my role in this, yet another one of those things that may not be in my job description to handle education, but it should be. And so we're going to get everybody in the same room together, and let's have a good conversation about how we know what the outcome, the desired outcome is, which is let's have access to quality childcare for every kid in the city if they want it. And if the parents want it. That's what our goal is. So let's get in a room, we'll diagnose that, and we'll talk about best practices around the state. And then I'm sure we would have a follow-up meeting that would talk about implementation, which then can lead to Rick's question about, well, then what do we do with the money? My hope would be we get that outcome, and then we go all in lockstep or in alignment as much as we can that direction. But Teresa's started, hit the ground running. She's doing a great job putting that all together because at one point we were having this conversation, and that all of that responsibility was on me amongst other things. And so now I got somebody more qualified that's going to see that thing through. So this will move significantly faster than it's been moving before, just from a bandwidth standpoint.
This one has to do with some, I guess, neighbor concerns about the project on Government Street. From the council meeting, Mr. Schofield apparently spoke and had concerns about truck traffic, saying neighbors are upset because the trucks enter and exit on Clubs, a narrower street rather than from Government. Also saying when it rains, the dirt flows onto Club Street. Also says the signs that are placed banning parking are illegal by the city's own ordinance. Anyway, so he had a list of concerns, and then finally said that he had been told that was unfounded speculation. So I didn't see this personally, these are from notes, but in general, in terms of neighbor concerns about those issues, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, well, probably my recommendation always for anybody on any street in any neighborhood is coming to a council meeting with criticisms or comments certainly is allowed, but if we want to be productive, my recommendation would be to reach out to our pertinent staff. We have rules around all of those things. We have code enforcement rules around all of those things. So we're happy to hear any citizens' thoughts or concerns, as we do every day. I mean, probably every hour we're getting an email about something. If it's about getting results and getting to a resolution, my recommendation to him or anybody is reach out to our staff and if we think something's out of whack or something's against those allegations, then let our staff look into it and either we can explain why it isn't or that we can take action. So I think whether it's city construction or private construction on private property, and I think we lose sight of that sometimes. This is private construction on private property. This is not. Sometimes I think people get the perception that this is a city project on city property. This is so they have guidelines, they have rules about containing dirt, like we do on every single construction project in the city. That as long as they're abiding by those rules, then everything's good. And if there's evidence that they aren't or something like that, then either our staff will talk to them, and for all I know, our staff may have already talked to them about those issues. I don't know, but starting with our sharing that in email to our staff, we're happy to look into any inquiry or concern with any citizen about private construction on private property.
Just one more good follow, and this maybe goes to my knowledge of Robert's rules or city procedures. That's such a good point, because I think sometimes people come to public forum and maybe they just don't know. Maybe it's a story we need to do. They expect some type of resolution or comment, and maybe they're even surprised when there's none. How would you see the role of public forum versus calling somebody up? Does it all work together?
Yeah, listen, I have no rules around public forum. I feel like the duty of the city and the mayor's office is that, that you get 3 minutes to share your thoughts or concern, or you think the mayor stinks, or you think he's great. Everybody has the right to do that, and that's what I certainly signed up for. So I would never advise what somebody should or shouldn't say. All I mean is I've seen a lot of things resolved like that through email to staff much faster than hyperbole and allegations of this and that, and I can't believe you guys did this or did that. People have the right to do that. I'm not limiting their ability to do that, and they can absolutely do that. But if the goal is a positive outcome in an expeditious manner, my advice always is to, and if you don't know the staff's email, certainly feel free to email me. I'll forward it on to the pertinent staff if they don't know who it is. DC Reeves at cityofpensacola.com. Anybody can email me there. But so I just, if we want to get to outcomes or explanations, again, many times it starts with a perception of something. I'm not speaking to this issue specifically. I just mean any issue. It starts with something that says, I can't believe the city does this, this, and this. And I would say more often than not, it's either a communication or a misunderstanding of a rule than it is necessarily that something wild, but that's not always, and we appreciate having eyes and ears out there from our citizens that say this isn't right, or this stop sign fell down, or something like that. I mean, that's a good thing, right? We want everybody to be safe. So, my strong recommendation always is shoot us an email and see if it's something we can solve.
Yeah, and thank you, because I think it applies to every board in the area. I think, you see it at all the different meetings and, very different situations, but I think a lot of times the public maybe didn't get it. So I think that was really valuable for you to share.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor, on the going back to the veterans bathroom issue, so back during, I think it was during COVID actually, when the Veterans Foundation put the bathroom trailer out there, and it was technically in the Admiral Mason section of the park, that was an element of a lawsuit by some citizens around there who were trying to block that. I guess putting the bathrooms there, getting that, have y'all looked into that issue about which side of the park it's on, and making sure what ended up happening, they had to pull it down because the city didn't follow its own processes with that. It was obviously under the previous administration.
I faintly remember, I was trying to keep 50 people employed during the COVID. I faintly remember some details around that, but what I can tell you is I feel pretty confident that that's not going to be an issue here. And again, that's about trying to make sure everybody at the table understands what is and what isn't, and just trying to improve our communication. So I would never predict with finality what will or won't happen eventually, but I don't suspect. I would be very surprised to see a legal contest or something like that as it pertains to this. I think we're all on the same page. The surrounding community, the surrounding property owners, VMP, our staff. I think we're in as a good alignment now as we've probably ever been on this project. So I don't suspect we'll have that.
Mayor, you had mentioned a couple weeks ago discussions with the foundation, the city, about the foundation taking some sort of proprietary interest in the Admiral Mason parcel. Mm-hmm. Is that still going on?
You talking about the VMP Foundation?
Right.
Okay. On the Admiral Mason side, yeah. They nothing has moved on that. I know they have proposed a stewardship agreement for the Admiral Mason side, but that has not taken place yet, nor is that contingent upon the project that we're talking about right now. So, so whether that happens or it doesn't happen has no bearing on the bathroom being built. But we're not delaying those for any reason. We just hadn't gotten to that yet. So
I know the devil's in the details, but what is your position on that? Do you think that should be worked out to everybody's benefit?
I mean, you
What
said
would the city benefit.
Yeah, you said it best. I mean, I think it depends on what the details are. Yeah, absolutely. I give VMP a lot of credit for the stewardship of the east half of the park and how it looks. And how many times have I been sitting here talking to you guys about the costs of maintaining things and all of that? And so, certainly they've done what they said they were going to do on the eastern half, of the park, and that's that much less, funding and care that when we got 94 parks to take care of. So from that end, having people that have credibility and reputation to do it right at wanting to help us with that, I think is generally a good thing. But again, it depends on what it is. I don't want the community to lose access for some reason. I don't want, there's other things that I've got to be mindful of that are hanging in the balance. So you said it more concise than me. Devil's in the details. So we'll see what that looks like and what their proposition would be, and go from there.
Mayor, last question for me. There's been stories nationwide this week about ports across the country expecting fewer ship traffic in the coming months because of the federal tariffs and everything. Have y'all seen any decrease in incoming cargo traffic here at the port? I know the port's pretty small, and the budget this year was already forecasting a 2% decline in revenue. I guess what are y'all expecting to see because of what's going on?
No, I'd be speaking out of turn if I said we're seeing any kind of trend one way or the other. But it's important to know too, our port, 55 acres, we are not cargo based nearly. What you're probably reading nationally is going to be places. I don't want to, a place like Savannah or Jacksonville or LA, where you're talking about significant cargo traffic. I would imagine the tariffs will impact them. Right now, the big ships you see a lot of times are ones being repaired, things like that. It's not necessarily cargo coming in. So from a specific cargo standpoint, I don't expect to see any impact. Now, whether work goes up and down for our folks on site there, that have leases there, I couldn't speak to, nor would I be qualified to do so. But everything seems to be going fine at the port overall. Lance is getting his feet wet in there and doing an awesome job getting us ready to go. American Magic, you see, like every construction project, it looks like nothing's happening for a while, and then next thing you know, you got panels up. If you've seen when you drive by, it's really starting to move extremely fast, both inside and outside. So all is good at the port right now. And again, I think from a cargo standpoint, I'd be surprised if Port of Pensacola would see any impact of that. Anything else? Thanks, guys.